So what you see happening is interesting nowadays. In many organizations, boardrooms are worrying quite a bit. And that's because new entries on the market make their business literally disappear. You see this in many sectors. And we all know companies like Spotify, Netflix, Uber. And when you talk to the direction and the board of a big bank in the Netherlands, ING, they're not worried about the other banks in the country, but they're worried about Apple and Google. Because Apple Pay and those new fintech startups that are around the corner, they're literally changing the way of doing business in the finance sector. This is what is happening in the boardroom level. And what people realize there is that to survive in this new digital era, digital is a key word here to remember, they need to create an organization that is more robust, more agile, more innovative. And what we see is that a kind of digital acceleration is therefore imperative to create as an organization, to build high-performance organizations. Well, what I drew here is something that is happening still in many corporates that I visited and I help with my team of consultants. And that is how it should not be done. This is not sustainable for surviving in the new digital era. What you see here is a bunch of architects who created architecture departments who think and create models about the future and the existing state of IT. Complex diagrams reflecting how interconnected systems lead to an architecture and IT landscape. Here you have a number of teams, and the good point is that in the past we did traditional software development in a waterfall approach. Nowadays we're organized in a kind of agile way. So one thing we did in many organizations is working agile, and having an agile way of working. So these teams are already kind of autonomous, working on delivering a piece of value through software. But there are a few problems here. One is that what those people built is not compliant to what the architects have designed and have created in terms of a future target state. The other problem is that this target state, what the architects think the organization should need and go forward to, is also not compliant to what those people in the board worry about and need to actually have a high-performance organization. So one of the problems is the lack of alignment here. Another problem is that you have a long time spent for getting your ID into production. So the whole cycle from ID to production, and this is not exaggerated, will take at least months in many large organizations. And this, as you can imagine, is not enough anymore to survive an app built by a company like Uber, who is changing the way retailers work and transport packages, for example. Or how a new app for getting a new mortgage or putting your savings money somewhere is changing the way customer delight is created. So banks, retailers, in all industries, people need to shorten this. Fortunately, there are a few technology drivers nowadays available to make this happen. And this is easy to explain. One of the things that you can eliminate is basically this whole department, which is acting as an ivory tower, disconnected from both the business and the whole IT delivery chain. It doesn't mean that you don't need a future vision. Of course, you need an interconnected part, but the solution is to make this more autonomous as well. I will not go into the details. There are all kinds of architectural styles to do this, but modern application landscapes is one of the main ingredients you need to become a high-performance organization. And the architects, well, you better not organize yourself too much in a silo. They need to be in those teams to understand what it is to build great products and to make sure that this alignment is there as well. Another thing that we can do to accelerate is to make sure that your software product is getting fast in production. Unfortunately, for some of the people here, that means quite of a redesign of what IT work meant in the past. Because here you see that those teams build software, they give it to test departments, who in many organizations, this whole chain is even more complex and consists of more stage gates. Testing is a very important capability, but the function of a tester is deprecated. It should not exist anymore soon. And you see this happening in many organizations. The same for release management. That is important to do as well, but not as a separate function. Those people and those skills need to work in those teams that are organizing themselves around a product, a piece of value they deliver, and they need to get this as soon as possible into production. Well, there are all kinds of technology advancements that help to make sure that you do this in a fast way. The whole build, test, release, deploy stage you can nowadays automate to the full extent. We call this continuous delivery. Continuous delivery of software. You basically make sure that your piece of code is entered in a repository, and automatically the tests are played, the release are orchestrated, and the deployment is scheduled. So in a fully automated way you can bring your software then into production. But to really make this as low as possible, from 3 months to something less, you need to also get rid of this part. And an IT operations department where mainframes are spinning and your whole data center is there with all kinds of constraints for making sure that those new applications and new customer value that you want to deliver are never going to see the daylight, that is also something that belongs to the past. Unfortunately, also big organizations are finding out that a simple alternative is to go to the cloud. And cloud computing is something that is not new as a concept, but fortunately nowadays we have evidence that also in big organizations you can make this happen. Not overnight, but with extreme cost reduction, simplicity, and quality improvement. We have of course all kinds of main cloud providers in the market, from Amazon, Google, and Microsoft Azure, to name a few of the biggest ones. In those clouds you have all kinds of new challenges that you need to take into account about how to provision your software, put them into containers, make sure that everything is orchestrated and discovered in a nice way. So without going in details, there's of course a discipline still to be done. But this makes sure that the whole chain from ID to production can easily be reduced to minutes. You can imagine that from months to minutes is something that resonates well in a boardroom, because this is fully automated and this can be fully automated as well. You still need, in many firms, people that make sure that this all is being managed as a product as well. So people who typically are called a platform team do make sure that this whole facility, a continuous delivery pipeline plus a cloud-based provisioning is available for all these teams to make use of. But this ensures that people here in this team can focus quite a bit on what kind of products they need to make, instead of making sure that they tackle all the impediments and the lack of flow in the chain behind them. And this helps accelerate extremely. So the main focus in all these technology advancements is to make sure that you can go faster time to market, you reduce the cycle time, and you become more a forerunner instead of lagging behind. There's one big problem I see in the market. Companies we help with this, they all understand that this is the way to go. So we have an agile way of working, we have modern application landscapes, we have continuous delivery, and we have, let's call it intelligent infrastructure. to redefine how we do operations. But the main bottleneck in many firms is not the technology, it's not the processes, it's the people and their skills, unfortunately. This is too disruptive for many IT professionals currently working in the top 250 companies we service. And that has been one of the main drivers for doing something we typically call talent development. Because how do you make sure that those people understand and have what it takes to work in such a way? So the focus is on this team. How do we equip people with the knowledge and skills that they can work in such a new world? And this was for me personally also the key driver to be participating and be working at the basics of the DevOps Agile Skills Association, DASA. With its main mission to improve the state of the practice in doing DevOps. And doing DevOps is a combination of having a better infrastructure, automation in the software delivery chain, agile way of working, adopting lean processes, and establishing a culture of high-performance IT organizations. But to establish this, we need to make sure that all those people are equipped to work like this. That's why we have come up with a competence framework consisting of a number of knowledge and a number of skill areas. Because we say, to survive in this world, we need multidisciplinary teams and multidisciplinary experts who cannot be expert in all the facets of working in this field, but they need a broader T-shaped profile, broader basis to work together. Because you do need testing capabilities, software development capabilities, business analysis capabilities in the teams, but you cannot have somebody who is solely busy with writing test scripts, for example, or somebody who's solely talking to customers. You need to do that as a team, and those high-performance teams is the solution, as we see with ING and those firms at the moment, to really accelerate. What DASA aims for is providing this basis. So in our model, you see that topics like an agile way of working, but also business analysis, business value optimization, to make sure that you focus on generating value and to optimize this. But also concepts about continuous delivery, which is this part, software architecture, infrastructure, are all covered so that people have a broad basis and a common frame of reference on how this way of working works. At the same time, we have a number of skill areas that we focus on to make sure that it's not only the hard knowledge that you need, it's also about a kind of culture, and we need an experimentation culture. People need to have courage to fail fast, to experiment and to learn. This is what makes lean startups being so successful, which has helped those organizations to become so successful. The only way to survive is to become this kind of organization and be heavily IT driven, but also create a culture that is associated with that. A continuous improvement mindset is something that is crucial there as well. There needs to be some kind of what we call DevOps leadership, so that not only individuals know their tricks and know their stuff, but also the way of managing those firms is well established, and people get empowered and get the autonomy to work in those teams. People here need to understand what it takes to delight the customers, and they need to put on their backlogs stuff that makes sure that we accelerate even further. No manager can tell them this to be that effective. So those skill areas, knowledge areas together has formed the competence framework of the DevOps Agile Skills Association. And what I'm proud of to see is that this model and the training courses that DASA has developed so far already are highly appreciated in the market. We've done several trainings and people are amazed at how much they can learn from this. I'm amazed that they can learn so much about it, but it confirms my thought that we need to help those people. And many of the people I, in a quite an extreme way, wiped away from the board, of course, need to be having a lifeline and a new way of operating in this kind of organizations. I think the DevOps Agile Skills Association helps them in this new world. This maturity model that we can draw on this has a number of levels, of course. Not everybody needs to be experienced in everything, but we want people to have a fundamentals, a foundational basis of knowledge at a second competence level. People who then specialize further can zoom in on various aspects of the whole model. But to be successful, you need to have a basic understanding as a team. So this is for us how we frame DevOps. So it's important to understand that DevOps is a combination of talent management, agile and lean way of working, continuous delivery, intelligent infrastructure, and those kind of topics. Because DevOps is often also seen as a kind of an automation thing, and it's definitely included, but it's far more than that. It's about the overall culture that you try to create, the way of working, the processes, the people, and the organization. How do you scale this at large? And we're now finding out with the first organizations that are diving in, ING is a good example, how this works and how this can be done best. And for me, DASA is therefore unique because it stands apart from the other initiatives so far on DevOps, which all have their pros and cons, but we try to have a holistic basis and an association that is open for participation with all the people and organizations that want to contribute. And what I find extremely cool is that now more than 50 organizations have assigned as a forerunner so far, and that shows that people like to build this field together with other members of DASA, and we can make those images even more mature, and we can together lead in terms of our fields of expertise. So that's the main reason for me to be active and in DASA and to try my best to bring this message across to people that want to hear it.